sure, the industry is going to be talking about, well, this is just a free market at work, and it's just, agents are that much more valuable, right? Turns out. I'm like, I don't think those guys are going to accept that.
I don't know what to say because I don't want to agree with you. I'm just going to be silent here for a while while you talk. This is Industry Relations, a podcast at the intersection of real estate and technology from an insider's perspective. Sponsored by Cotality. Stay tuned to learn more with Rob Hahn and Greg Robertson.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Industry Relations with Rob and Greg. This is your co-host, Rob, Notorious ROB, and as always, my other amazing co-host, the fabulous Greg Robertson, everyone.
Hola, everybody.
Hola.
Good to see you, Rob.
Good to see you. How you doing?
All right. It's we were talking about this ahead of time, but it's kind of a light news week, right? I mean,
a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Right?
A little bit. But there are a couple of interesting things, I think, especially for our audience, right?
Yeah, and I think that to me, in our kind of, just to get a bit meta here, Andrea moving to realestatenews.com.
Yep.
I think some of us knew that ahead of time. I don't think we've talked about it on the podcast before, but good for her. I think, she's found another home. She was at Inman for so long. So I hope that the guys at Real Estate News, as I said in my blog post, let Andrea cook. Sure. Yeah. Because she's always been, the one that has done these exposés and everything. And, like to see that. Okay. Here.
I mean, we've talked about it offline, Greg. So we'll just talk about it online now. But I just thought you should hire her and start the Greg Robertson media, giant. Because here's what I mean. I think Andrea's very competent, and you're right. If people would let her cook, then I think she could. I don't know that she's ever been allowed to cook because this industry doesn't appreciate things like exposés, right? Like, when's the last investigative journalism piece you could think of coming out of the industry?
Right. I mean, it's been a well. I mean, I guess you could harken back to the NAR sex scandals,
but that wasn't the industry. But that was New York Times,
right?
That's what I'm saying. Like, the industry has never done any sort of expose, any sort of investigative reporting, anything important, right?
Well, I mean, I think she's been a part of some of the stuff out there with some background on, let's call it RPR and their financing. Let's call it
again. No, I agree.
Call it. I mean, some of those kind of things.
I agree. My point is though, like, she does a great job reporting, and I think she does a great job. She's got the network and she has sources. I think she does a great job. Andrea, we're a big fan, right? I'm just saying, I don't know if any editor at Inman or wherever has ever said, okay, Andrea, this is RPR, okay? Get into this background. But you know what? Do some investigation, right? Who the hell's funding this? Like, how did this come about? Do you know what I mean? She's not. So, look, maybe Real Estate News would be different, and they would let her cook and do some actual, like, real investigative journalism, because I think there are some questions that people have questions. There are some issues people have questions about, But
right. Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. And I thought the Greg Robertson media company would let Andrea and other journalists
there'd be the subscription only, a subscription add-on to Vendor Alley would be
there you go.
Back Alley.
Oh, I like it.
All the news is
I like it. Yeah, Real Estate Back Alley. How much would people pay to subscribe to that, right? Yeah. So that Greg could go hire Andrea and a bunch of other people who are great journalists. They just need to be allowed to, journalist, right?
Yeah.
But in any event, and that's a good point because she actually came out with an article that you and I saw recently because Sonny told us to go read it, which is near and dear to both of our hearts, I guess. So why don't I put it up and you introduce it? How's that sound?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while, but Anne Marie is retiring in 2000. I think she said 26, right?
That's right. So, end of next year.
And she's calling for MLS freedom over from Realtor control. I mean, I don't know if this goes in the camp, and again, you might say to me, well, it's the same camp, Greg, but there's the divorce of MLSs and associations versus the other camp, or the other kind of way of putting it is like let non-realtors join the MLS, right? So it's kind of, I think,
among other things.
Yeah. She's kind of both of she's talking about both types of things there.
Yeah.
And I guess they've already kind of done that, and she's just setting it up. I think they voted on it or something, and now they're putting all the kind of pieces in place to make that happen. And she makes some of the same arguments you've been making for quite a while of why this needs to happen. But your arguments, though, I think from 2016 really came to light. You were making some arguments, but they actually came up in these lawsuits, right? So it's added a lot more validity than some nut job up on stage giving pontificating about things.
Sure. Yeah.
Some prophetic nut job, or just a prophetic person up on stage.
Right. Hey man, Robstradamus.
Yeah, exactly. Notorious Amos.
I guess I do have a couple of like one or two questions, I suppose, from what this article says. Right. But as a general matter, I mean, I don't know how you feel, because I know you're a big NAR fan.
On this podcast, I am. Compared to you.
Yeah, compared to me.
Compared to you, I'm a raving fan, exactly.
But, it's like, I guess I welcome Anne-Marie to 2016, right? Because that's when I did that CMLS event, and it said, you guys need to get divorced. But, I don't know if they actually divorced, right? So what we get is this, right? We have functionally financially separate the MLS from the association, right? My first question with that is, okay, who owns the MLS?
Right.
Because every organization has an owner, right? Or it should, unless the MLS has been set up as some sort of a nonprofit cooperative, I suppose. Do you know what I mean? So I think it'll be interesting to know, and I think other MLS would like to know, okay, what is your ownership structure? And this is the piece that I talked about in 2016. I've talked about it ever since, right? Which is MLSs and associations like to talk about things like realtor access or a separate board, right? I mean, you were just touting Las Vegas, right? Perfect example. The Las Vegas MLS has a separate board, has a separate CEO, and they like to think they're independent. But they're 100% entirely owned by the greater Las Vegas realtors.
Right.
Well, then you're not separate, right? And we saw that last year, when RE Colorado, separate board, separate building, separate everything, got sold because the two associations that owned it decided to sell it. So with something like Canopy, I guess question number one is, what's your new ownership structure, right? And Anne-Marie's a lawyer, so she probably could, structured it the appropriate way. That would be the type of advice that I think MLS people would really like to know. How did you manage this total separation?
So,
right?
Okay, who would you recommend own it?
I mean, I'm a big fan of mixed ownership, right? And this was my whole privatization move, right? My thing was have the association own a minority stake and then have brokers own the rest.
And outside people too?
Outside people too.
Yeah. What
does it matter, right? And that's like going right into, what I've been working on for the last couple of years. But, so I don't know how much I want to, get into that. But the idea is very clear. And I think the idea is that these mandates pose, membership mandates pose liability risk, right? Yeah, that's true. And MLS have been sued over and over and over again, right? Around this issue, but that's why we have something called the Thompson jurisdictions,
right?
Because it's really only California and the 3 states of the 11th Circuit, where you cannot mandate realtor membership, right? Other situations, most recent one I could think of is Kansas City. I think they won the lawsuit, and the courts have said, no, this is a membership benefit, so requiring membership for access to MLS is not that big a deal. Maybe that's changing. But, there's that. I do like this, where she talks about local discretion shifts risk to MLS. Well, yeah, this is good luck, Godspeed, Godspeed, farewell, from last year. It's like, okay, NAR, you're abandoning, things, but still claiming to be in charge.
I mean, overall, I mean, I think we talked about this before, but we're what, only 4 days away or from that infamous or famous or, August 17th deadline, right? I mean, this is when all those kind of things are supposed to be put in.
That's right.
And, I think I read something here of like, I think realtor commissions are up.
They are.
Right? So it's like...
They are.
Yeah, it's just and that could be signs of market, that could be signs of some other things, but it's what do I always say? It's hard to tell the poison from the cure sometimes, right?
Sure.
And what are these going? I mean, and is that a good thing? Is that expected? I mean, what do you think? I mean,
about
in
what?
Regards about realtor commissions up after a year later from this from these deadlines.
I mean, good. What do you mean by good thing or bad thing? I guess is what I'm saying. Good for whom? It's good for those agents making the commission.
I mean, let's just go from the perspective of the plaintiffs.
Of the plaintiffs, the catch market crew.
Yeah.
Oh, I think it's a great thing
for them.
For them, because they're going to have another lawsuit. Yeah. Double dipping, baby.
The well may be dry there, bro, though, right?
I don't think it's that dry, and they are still out there spending money like crazy. So it's not. It's apparently not dry enough, right? So yeah, it's great news if you're plaintiff's bar. It's great. It's good news if you're the buyer agent getting that higher commission check.
But can two things be good? Correct at the same time, meaning that even with more transparency on the process, right? I know we're going on a little tangent here, but yeah, just kind of, I was meaning to talk about this too.
Yeah.
That the two things being true is that we now have arguably more transparency with buyers. Right? Because of the buyer rep agreements having to be mandatory and whatnot.
Right.
And then, but also that the market, with affordability, with interest rates rising so fast, with supply, it's even need an agent even more than you might have had before to kind of navigate this type of thing, and that has caused things to go. I mean, so I mean, it's not like this thing was like maybe they were trying to say agents were ripping people off, but maybe this even with increased transparency, people are still seeing the value more than ever of an agent by the rise of the commission.
I suppose that's possible, but I don't think so, right? Because
why have commissions gone up then in your
steering,
still steering,
massive steering, yeah. And
so did the buyer rep agreements and the other changes enhance steering?
Yes. The way that it's been affected. And this is the interesting thing. So I don't, we talked about, maybe we'll get into this. There's a new lawsuit that's been filed in Florida. I wrote about it, called Zia versus NAR. I think the lawsuit itself is likely, I don't know how to put this.
He's not. It's the guy's representing himself.
He's representing himself.
He's not even an attorney.
Right. And he might be an attorney. Like, I'm reading the thing. It sounds like he has legal background, right? But it's one guy, right? Meaning like damage is like whatever. It doesn't matter. And he's representing himself, and he's going to go against 16 of the largest, MLS organizations in the country. Like, good luck to you, sir. However, what he brings up, though, and he's got some of the evidence. So I think that lawsuit gets interesting if Michael Ketchmark calls him, right? And says, hey, bro, I saw your lawsuit. This is real interesting. Let us represent you, and then we're going to turn this to a class action. Right. That's when the shit gets interesting, because
what's the Sitzer Burnett was one thing. What is his premise on this?
This is almost like Sitzer Part 2, I guess one way to think about it. His premise,
but this isn't one of those. The one was for the buyer, and this is for the seller, right?
No. This is the agent. This is a broker. So Zia has one of those MLS only companies, right? Where they'll just put your listing in the MLS and nothing else. Right?
Okay.
Maybe they sell you some yard signs, whatever, right? Not even like advice. I don't see any of that, right? And what Zia is claiming essentially is that NAR and the MLSs did put in all these rules, right, as a result of Sitzer, which were supposed to make the market more transparent and more competitive. And then they don't enforce any of it. That's his claim, right? And it's almost willful, right? So I think what I wrote was he has a theory of coordinated inaction, right? So if you read between the lines, it's like 130-page, complaint. So it was really rambly. But I
can imagine every compliance department of every MLS is going to go, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Right?
Well, so that's the interesting thing. So what he talks about is how, and he has some receipts. That's what makes it interesting, right? So to me, what this is a guy who's been pissed off for years and years and years, right? And he's been collecting a lot of this information, a lot of this evidence.
So he launches up ChatGTP and
Maybe.
says, "Okay, I want to file a lawsuit."
Exactly. Maybe it's possible, right? But the important part that is that he does have some receipts, like emails, phone calls that he's had with like MLS compliance people, with association ethics people, right? And he's trying to show that there's this like conspiracy, this coordinated effort not to enforce these rules, right? And one of them is the buyer broker agency thing, right? The mandatory buyer agency agreement. Right?
Yeah.
What he says is, and I was like, you know what? He might be right. No one enforces this. And remember, when that thing came out, I remember you and I having a discussion about, okay, it's cool that you passed this rule. How are you going to enforce it?
Yeah.
Right? And his claim with evidence is that these MLS and associations simply do not enforce it. They don't even monitor it.
I'll add something not to fucking agree with you.
I know you hate that.
I do hate that. But I had given a presentation we talked about last week ago to the Las Vegas Realtors.
Sure.
And about, I would say, 400 people in the audience. And one of the part of my, this is how wacky I am with storytelling, right? So I was talking about August 17th, just like we're doing now. Like, hey, because I think it was on the 17th or like the day before, the day after. And I said, so how are we doing? This is a big deal. Rob and I were here a few years ago. We talked about in this new rules. How are you guys dealing with these buyer rep agreements, right? And the crowd was like, it's good.
Yeah,
it's good. It's like, so it's like the vibe I got, and nobody confirmed this, but I will just say from the stage, looking at the reaction from all the agents out there is like, yeah, we're doing it. Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
Exactly. Right.
It was just this kind of like, and again, the reason why I think what's happening is that typically, in regard to compliance, in regard to some other things, a lot of times it is a lot of agents tattle on each other. But because this is a thing where they all hate it, they might be in some regards just like, this is like the least of what they're going to tattle on because they hate it too. Everybody hates to kind of do these things, right? So that there might be something there to what you're saying,
right?
I know a lot of MLSs are concerned about this, and they're trying. There are some products out there, I think, like RACore.net has a buyer's registry. They're trying to come up with technology solutions to capture that information, so they have something. But you might be right. This might be one of those things that compliance isn't there because people are doing exactly what you're saying. What I told you was crazy to do is like I don't think they're forging signatures. I just don't think they're doing it.
They're probably not. Yeah.
And it might be causing some problems.
So this is from the Zia lawsuit, right? That's why I'm saying this lawsuit. The lawsuit itself, like I said, who knows? But the fact that he's collected this evidence could be something that a big law firm finds really interesting, right? One of the things he found was, because number one, people don't tattletale. He did.
Well, agents tattletale on each other.
But I'm saying with respect to buyer agency agreement.
Yeah.
He did. This guy went to the MLS and said, hey, so this buyer agent is coming. Do they have a buyer agency agreement? And the MLS like, we don't track that.
Right.
We don't monitor that. I'm like, okay, if you don't monitor and track it, you certainly can't enforce it.
Do do you have to upload the listing agreement when you put it on the MLS?
I don't know. Some MLSs yes, some MLSs don't.
Yeah,
right?
so that's
most MLSs
interesting.
that I've seen is you don't have to upload it, but the MLS has a right to request a copy. Right.
So, this is, I mean, you could say this is just following their normal.
Maybe that if they request a buyer's agreement, you have to upload it. I'm just saying, like in his lawsuit, the thing that he has is like emails and phone conferences. The MLS is like,
right,
yeah,
but
we don't monitor that.
But
we don't
put it on
track
the other
it.
end. Maybe he calls up and says, "Hey, did you check to see make sure they have the listing agreement with this?" It's like, no, we don't do that. We've never
possible,
done that.
right?
Okay, all right.
So I'm just saying, like, and then the other things that he points out are the things that like Wendy Gilch, right, and the the consumer Fed people have been bitching about now for like a year, right? And remember Tanya Monestier, went out and did this huge thing, like agents just like finding loopholes, they just get around it, right? Yeah. Like completely violating.
Humans like to find loopholes.
Humans like to find loopholes, and one of the things they talk about is like, one price now, right? But then if we get a higher offer, then we're going to change, right? Rewrite the contract at that point.
Yeah.
Shit like that.
Yeah.
The Zia guy found a whole bunch of agents out there claiming. Remember, one of the settlement things was you're not allowed to say your services are free.
Right.
They're claiming it's free, right?
Yeah.
And they're claiming it's free in a very particular way. Listen, I know the paper says 3%, but don't worry, I'm going to get the seller to pay it. So really, I'm free. That kind of thing, right?
Right, yeah.
And again, who's enforcing that?
Right.
Nobody's enforcing that.
I mean, anything verbal is pretty hard to freaking enforce anyway, right?
Correct, right. So, so this is where I think this leads. So you combine all of those things together, and I'm like, okay. So if I'm the Department of Justice, if I'm the FTC, if I'm the think tanks, if I'm if I'm BlackRock, I'm the people who kind of drove these changes in the first place, right? I like to refer to them collectively as our betters, our lords, our rulers, right? Who rule us from Washington, D.C.
I, for one, am excited about our new...
Right? If I'm those guys, and their entire thing was, it costs too much to buy and sell real estate in the United States. They wanted to get to close, more like 1.5% to 2%, like it is in Germany or elsewhere, right? Like that's what they want to get to. They have not gotten to this, right?
Yeah.
And now we're seeing all of this. And now you have articles in Inman with agents bragging about, I'm making more money than ever, right? Sure, the industry is going to be talking about, well, this is just a free market at work. And it's just, agents are that much more valuable, right? Turns out. I'm like, I don't think those guys are going to accept that.
I don't know what to say because I don't want to agree with you. I'm just going to be silent here for a while you talk.
I mean, but like what I'm saying is if those guys then look at this and go, look, clearly the way we try to do it, that wasn't enough. So what do you have to do to eliminate steering? You have to straight up just ban compensation, period. That's the only way. And the only way you can do that, you can't do it through a lawsuit, I don't think, right? You have to do it through regulation or legislation.
Yeah.
Right?
Or I mean, let's have baby steps. Let's just do enforcement on the buyer rep agreement, right? I mean,
okay, but who's going to do that?
The MLS,
not just the buyer rep
association?
agreement. Think about this. So one of the claims that Zia makes, right, is that there is no specific rule in any association, in the Code of Ethics or in any MLS. There's no specific rule against steering. Right? And I'm looking at it like, I don't think you're right because I don't think you're right because NAR has said steering is against the Code of Ethics, and steering is also against fiduciary laws of agency. So double whammy.
It probably doesn't have a rule to say you can't kill someone either, right? So,
exactly, right.
Right.
However, here's where I think he does have a point. And I've asked this question before, right? Has any agent anywhere ever been disciplined for steering?
God, even if you go back to that Long Island thing, right?
Right.
I mean,
but that was racial steering, which is different. We're talking about compensation steering.
Okay.
Right? Has any agent in any MLS anywhere ever been disciplined?
I think that the tough part of that is proving that, right? Like anything else, it's like I think it's easy to kind of make accusations and it may look black and white, but I mean, as far as putting that case together to prove it is really arduous. And like,
sure,
by that time, the home is sold, you're never that guy's never going to talk to you another 7-8 years. So,
Sure. Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah. Yeah, of course. All those. I'm just simply asking. It's a factual question, right?
Yeah.
How many agents, how many realtors have ever been disciplined for commission steering?
Yeah.
Right. Number one. Number two. If they have been disciplined, because again, Zia does bring this up. What was the penalty?
Right.
In one case, he talks about the penalty was a couple $100 fine. If I'm the agent, I'm like, I will pay that fine all day, every day, twice on Sunday, right? Because I'm going to steer and make another 10 grand. I'll pay $500. Like, okay, whatever. It's cost of doing business. Right.
Sure, but I mean, if it was also, there might be something where if it's an ethical violation, if you have 2 strikes, you're out, regardless of the fines or whatever else, right?
But,
So I think there's probably something in place for that.
Has that ever happened?
Again, I mean, imagine just from a realistic standpoint, an agent says this guy steered. Okay, who's in charge of that investigation? And that investigation, it probably is going to take
Sure.
a long time. And then let's say you times that by 10.
Let me pause you real quick, okay? And this is why I'm saying this Zia lawsuit is so interesting. One of the cases that he brings up, one of the pieces of evidence, was where the steering was in writing.
Oh,
The
wow.
buyer agent was stupid and wrote, right? You agree, I will not show you any houses that don't offer compensation more than or less than the amount we agreed to, or something like that. It's in writing. The association, hold on.
but
The association, let me finish. That association did not discipline that agent.
Right. But isn't there, though, there's a crowd out there, and I'm not going to speak his name, that would say, well, that's what my buyer wants, right? I'm just doing what my buyer wants. He doesn't want to pay for compensation, so he's telling me I have to do it this way. I mean,
Yeah.
I've heard
Isn't he
those
like really
arguments
good friends
before.
with the NAR president? This name that you won't say.
I'm not walking into that.
I'm just saying, right? Like when you have evidence like that, where it's in writing, and then the association does nothing, then you have a pretty strong claim that there's a problem,
Right.
So now I'm going to relate this back to Anne Marie's whole thing, separate the MLS and the association. Okay, fine, right? One of the issues is most of these violations are handled through the code of ethics process, right?
Okay.
Does the MLS I mean, the MLS can issue fines, right? They could ban you from the MLS, right? But what's the sort of adjudication method in the MLS? Like someone challenges, like that didn't happen. I believe they send it to the association most of the time.
They might, but I mean, how does independent MLSs do it?
That's a
they've
great
got to
question.
have their own.
They must, right?
Their own policies or
Right.
something that.
So
Whether
if
it's
you're going,
ethics or anything, it's a
Right.
policy of conduct or something.
So if you're going to separate the MLS and the realtor world, which I'm fully in support of, right? One of the things you have to think about is, okay, MLS, now enforcement is entirely on you,
Right.
right? And of the 530 some odd MLS in the country, how many can do that? Right. I mean, not art card, you know. Ed Zorn, commented on, on that post of mine, talking about, what CRMLS, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, look, Ed, here's like, it's just a general rule. What Ed says is almost irrelevant to like the vast majority of the industry.
Right.
Because CMLS is so big, so professional, have so much money. Sure, Ed, you guys could have compliance staff. You guys could do all of this. Random, whatever, 1,000-person MLS in the middle of, Kansas isn't, right? So when you
Maybe
combine,
this becomes a consolidation play for
maybe,
everybody else,
right? Maybe, but that's why I'm asking about, Canopy, who owns it,
Right.
right? Because how do you consolidate nonprofits?
Right.
How do you do that? And is there a board? Like now you're in the MLS merger world, which is essentially like 2 townships trying to merge.
Yeah.
And it takes 10 years and, all sorts of politics and blah, blah, blah. It's like, good luck, right? So it's all tied together. But I do think, I don't know, like more and more I'm feeling like there's another shoe coming, right? There's another shoe that's about to drop at some point, right? Maybe not soon,
Well,
maybe not now.
Not on his own, but if you said like he gets a phone call from somebody, maybe, right?
Well,
But here's the thing. The only reason a person like Ketchmark would make that call is a money grab, not because he's fighting for the rights of buyers and sellers.
No. It's like I need another
jet.
Yacht. Yeah. I have an island that I want to buy.
Yeah.
Right. Having said that, it's I feel like this opens up a vulnerability, right? Like agents are out there going at Inman talking about I'm making more money than ever, and here's how, right? Like commissions aren't going down; they're going up. Like okay, and then you have people out there like cheerleading. Yeah, this means like agents are so much more valuable. I'm like, yeah, but you look into it because the sellers just continue to write checks, right? And there's clear evidence all across, like, of steering just going on, right? And the entire premise of the DOJ getting involved is they wanted to eliminate steering.
Right. And were we better off with the rules we had before that were more, less about that could kind of abuse steering?
Yes.
Abuse steering now? In a way we are, right? Yeah.
No, but let me be specific about before. You're probably thinking before, like, 2019.
Right.
I'm thinking before like 1980.
Okay, here we go. The sub-agency thing.
Sub-agency, right? We should just go back to sub-agency. Honestly.
Yeah.
We should go back to sub-agency and then just ban compensation.
Yeah. Again, that's a whole kind of Chesterton's fence thing, right? I mean, there's a reason why we left that.
No, so you're exactly right. And Chester's fence doesn't say don't get rid of it. It's understand why the fence was put up.
That's right, yeah.
I am one of those people who understands the Chester's fence with respect to this context. That fence was put up was because brokers were getting sued.
Right.
Because their agents were not disclosing the fact that they're sub-agents adequately. Okay, now you have to have all kinds of fucking disclosures, including like sign this buyer agents agreement. All right, man, disclose away. Do you want to hire me? Here's how you could do it, Mr.
So
Buyer.
you're saying because of, but then you have this kind of paradox again. If it's not being enforced, then the brokers are still open up to being.
What do you mean
sued.
it's not being enforced?
You're saying that this sub-agency could work now in this environment because there's buyer rep agreements.
No, I'm saying sub-agency could have worked back then if the brokers and NAR, everyone said, hey, you need to inform the buyer that you don't work for them.
Right, but isn't that what the buyer's representation agreements say now?
No, buyer rep agreement now says I work for you.
Well, I mean, but it could be. I mean, it's an agreement that basically is
spells shit out, right?
Yeah,
and you're supposed to go over it. But here's what I'm saying, right? Let's go back, right? Here's your choice, Mr. Buyer. Okay, you can hire me to be your agent. Then you pay me. I don't go ask for money from the seller. You're paying me. Period. End of story. I charge 3%.
How is it supposed to be now, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
That's how it's supposed to be. And then the agent's supposed to say, if the seller offers money, you don't have to pay me as much. That's where the steering is happening. So let's go back. Here's your choice. You can hire me to be your agent. I will only look out for your interests. You're going to pay me 3%. Or you can hire me, don't pay me nothing, and I'll be the sub-agent of the seller. And the seller will pay me. It's your choice.
Right.
However, if I'm a sub-agent, I work for the seller.
Yeah.
I don't work for you.
Right.
But I would advise you go get an attorney to review the contract, blah, 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 make sure your interests are protected, yada, yada, yada.
Already that, I think, falls apart there a little bit. Yeah.
I know, but like that, the sub-agency thing worked for 100 fucking years, right? Until the brokers just said, oh, we're getting sued too much because our agents are
fucking lying. Do you think that the
lying.
lawsuits have gone up or down since then?
Probably
overall?
Up. Probably up.
Way up.
Yeah. No, we need some legal reform in the country too. But I'm just saying, like, that's how you solve that problem, I think. It seems easy. It seems elegant. Everyone knows how to do it, right? And quite frankly, here's the thing. I'm actually not convinced that buyers want agents.
Say that one more time.
I'm actually not convinced that buyers want agents. In other words, fiduciary agency. I'm not convinced of that.
So you think that a buyer is okay going it solo.
Not solo. Again, fiduciary agent, right? Think about like how often people go buy a car.
So so people that are working for them, you don't think that's you think that they don't care who they work for.
I'm not convinced that buyers want a fiduciary agent. Right. Here's what I mean. Again, car dealerships, right? People go into car dealership, buy very expensive shit, and get into debt for 5-6 years.
Of everything. This episode is brought to you by our sponsor, Cotality. CoreLogic is now Cotality. Same trusted technology and data, just with a new name that reflects their mission to unify property professionals, strengthen industry relationships, and drive innovation globally. Cotality powers tools you already know and love, like Matrix, the gold standard for MLS systems. There's one home for agents who want to give their clients a more personalized collaboration experience. MLS Touch keeps you connected to the MLS no matter where you are. Realist gives you the insights to stand out as the local expert and tools to fill your funnel with high-value leads. The new One Homeowner platform keeps you top of mind and delivers value long after the deal is done. Learn more at Cotality.com. Our thanks to Cotality for sponsoring Industry Relations. So, I get your car analogy, but this is the biggest purchase they're making in their life, right? And you think that they don't, you're not convinced that the buyer cares to have somebody who is on their side to protect their interests financially in that transaction.
I'm not convinced that it would need to be an agent.
You could be an attorney.
Right. Because
Right. Okay. But I mean, there's so many other things besides the legal part of this.
Sure.
That an agent provides.
Sure.
I think that it needs to be a combination of that.
What I'm saying is, so the buyer has a choice. You can have someone on your side. It'll cost you 3% or 2.5%, whatever it is.
But isn't that what they're already making that decision now? They're either going to go FSBO or agent, right?
Because we've had 100 years of sub-agency, which then transformed to buyer agency, where the seller pays your agent's fees.
No, but they can go FSBO.
No, as a buyer.
Oh, as a buyer. Sorry, yeah.
Right?
Right.
So we're only talking about buyers.
but
Sellers,
I mean,
think,
they
definitely
can still
want an
go
agent.
by themselves. There's some buyers that, there's a goddamn guy who's,
Sure.
suing a bunch of MLSs without having a legal.
Sure. And I guess I'm sort of wondering about that too, right?
If you don't think that if you're not convinced they actually think they need somebody like that, then why aren't most buyers just representing themselves in this transaction?
Because the way that we've come about it, man, like way we've evolved this model we have, right?
So it's inertia?
I think part of it is inertia, and part of it is they don't know what they're doing, and they want an expert helping them.
Yeah.
Right? Thing is, I don't think it's that different with cars.
It's not the biggest asset they have in their.
No, I understand, but like, dude, trucks are $100,000 now. And it's fine. It's not the biggest asset, but most working people are renters anyway. So for them, the truck is the biggest asset that they own, right? And they're walking to dealerships, and they just want some expert, somebody who knows, like, hey, this truck, like how many horsepower, and tell me about this, tell me about that, right? They're not confused. They don't think that guy at the dealership is working for them.
Yeah,
right?
but there's not other people bidding on it.
Let me finish. Hold on.
Okay.
I'm saying it turns out with cars, you can hire your own rep. There are services, right, where you pay them and they go in and find the car and, look it over and do all that and advise you. Very few people use that.
Yeah.
Right? So again, I'm not saying they don't. I'm not making a definitive statement here. What I'm saying is I'm not convinced that buyers want a fiduciary agent for themselves. I'm just not convinced of it. Mm-hmm. And I think the way to find out is to make that an option. In other words, the default is sub-agency, because that's what the industry is used to. That's what the industry is comfortable with. It has worked for 100 years with sub-agency. You can have your own agent, and you just got to pay that agent. And none of this, like, I'm going to ask the seller for money, none of it. You can have your own agent, or you can have a sub-agent. And let's see how many people say, you know what, no, I want you protecting my interest. This is the biggest purchase I'm going to make. How much is it? 2.5%? No problem. I'll do that at closing. Sign the buyer agents agreement. Boom, done.
Right.
Simplest system. And it doesn't take that much. And I think in a way that completely eliminates steering.
Right.
Right. Because the whole premise behind people like Doug Miller and Wendy and Tanya, what they're upset about is your agent who supposedly works for you is your fiduciary, right? Is getting bribed, and that's Doug's words, commercial bribery, by the seller and the listing agent, right? And they're steering you away from houses that don't offer enough, blah, blah, blah. With sub-agency, that's just not a thing, right? Because there's no payment to a buyer's rep. There's a payment to a sub-agent. And the listing agent's like, I'm going to split half of it with you.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
What I would have to go is, and you're just putting under a blanket that they were getting sued more, right? I'd probably want to go back and look at why that fence was put up in the first place. Also, and what those lawsuits were about, and what other kind of Pandora's box that kind of
sure,
there.
Sure. But I'll tell you right now. So I've looked into it. And it was shit that honestly, no agent, no broker, no realtor ever would be like okay with it.
Right.
Meaning it was like straight up fraud and lies and failure to disclose stuff. Right. So the way it happened was like, look, there's a foundation problem. The agent knew about it, did not disclose it. And then said, well, you see, Mr. Buyer, I just work for the seller.
Right.
But it's like, but you're licensed, and under state license law, you have to disclose material defects. In a way, this wasn't even about buyer, agency versus whatever. It was like straight up breach of like licensing law.
And
right?
and what changes that are in effect now, or that could be made in effect?
What do you mean?
Would make sure those things don't happen again?
I don't know, start reporting them, I suppose.
Right. So it goes back to this kind of
but in that case, like when you're failing to disclose material defects, that is a license law issue.
Right.
Right. This isn't like realtors get along issue. This is a code of ethics issue. This is
back then they decided, okay, the only enforcement's going to be tough, so the best thing we can do is just sever it. Is there something? I guess what I'm asking is, they've made that decision that long ago to like just sever it. We'll do it this way. What has changed now that we should revisit and say, you know what, that was pretty harsh.
Right.
Let's bring it back, but with X.
Because what that creates is all of the steering environment, right? It creates the illegality. Like, why can't the MLS offer compensation?
Yeah. It's hard to tell
all
the poison from the cure. Yeah.
But thing is, I mean, seriously, everything has been a disaster ever since the industry went to buyer agency. And this is not me. I've written about this, right? It's
a bold statement.
What's his name? Brian Larson, right? Wrote about this back in like 2002, like 2003. And again, hey, industry, you think I'm a bomb thrower. Can we agree that Brian Larson is the furthest thing you could imagine from a bomb thrower?
Is it MLS Tesseract or something?
Tesseract, right?
Tesseract, yeah.
I mean, this is the guy who invented IDX, right? That's like from him, right? He is you can't get to be a bigger fan of the industry or MLS, whatever, biggest protector, defender than Brian F.N. Larson. He's the one who said, hey, if we're moving to buyer agency, this compensation thing doesn't make any sense anymore. We might have to change how we think about that and change what we think about the MLS. Everyone ignored him. And here we are getting hit by lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit, right? Yeah. And steering is now much in the conversation. And there's ethics violation. I'm like, if we just went back to, you can offer it in the MLS because it's a sub-agent, right? There's no violation there that I could think of. What's the antitrust like? Hey, if you come work for me, I'm going to pay you this much money, right? That's number one. Number two, it restores the value of the MLS in terms of the compensation offer, right? Number three, it allows us to really define what cooperation means. And this was what you and I were I was picking at you about because your entire presentation in Las Vegas around cooperation. And like, it's just sad. Like we think cooperation just means we're just going to play nice and get along. Like that's not what cooperation means. Cooperation meant if you bring me a buyer, I will hire you to be my sub-agent. That's what it meant.
It used to be, yeah.
Right, that's the original meaning of cooperation. And therefore, since you are working for me, compensation, right? And then we move to buyer agency and then still try to hold on to cooperation compensation, but this means the seller. And that's led to all the problems. So I'm saying, hey, listen, let's just go back to sub-agency, as default. And since buyer agency is now a concept, let's keep that, right? But you want to be a buyer agent. Guess what? No cooperation, no compensation. It's adversarial, and have your client, the buyer, pay you.
So your bet is, and now I'm kind of grokking this a bit more, is that if the buyer is presented with two choices, the red pill and the blue pill, right?
That's right.
Says, okay, here is going to cost you 3%.
Yep.
And you're going to have an agent, but he actually does work for me, even though it might be a different firm or whatever, right? And it's only 3%, right?
Wait.
Can be from. Can you pick the agent?
Of course.
Yeah. Okay. So here's one where it's sub agency, right? And you only pay 3%, right?
No, sub agency you pay nothing.
Pay nothing. Sorry.
Right.
And then, but if you want to hire your own agent who works for you directly, then it's 3%.
Right.
And you're saying that most people are going to choose the sub agency.
I think so, but we get to find out.
Right.
Right. And again, the fact that buyer agents are out there saying, we have these written buyer agreements, I'm making more money than ever. And then you have Zia coming on saying it's because these buyer agents are violating the settlement.
Right. But let's say somebody goes to homes.com.
Sure.
You're listing your lead.
Yes.
Oh, that looks interesting.
Yes.
Puts in their information.
Yes.
They get right to the listing agent.
Yes.
Listing agent says, "Oh, okay, yeah, thank you. It's perfect.
Yep.
This is that. This is that." Let me just ask you a quick question. Are you working with a buyer's agent? No, I'm not. Oh, okay.
Right.
Well, you have a choice here.
Right.
You can work with me directly, and I'll save you 3%.
Right.
Or you can go find your other buyer, an agent for you that that may or may not, that will cost you money, that may or may not, my seller may or may not pay. Right?
No, there's no may or may not. There's my seller will not pay, period.
Okay, but that might not be the case, though, right? So it could be either or.
No, yeah. So either, hey, I can take care of you, and frankly, depending on the laws, right? Because obviously you have to think about agency law. Maybe it's or someone on my team or in my brokerage will.
Yeah.
Right. And you owe us nothing. It's free, but that agent is a sub agent. Of the seller. But they'll take good care of you. They're experts, blah, blah, right?
They sell it. Sure.
We work together all the time. This or
double-ended, right?
Essentially, right?
Yeah.
Or you could go hire your own agent, right, and pay 3%.
Right.
And then see what the buyer wants.
And my seller,
right,
depending on what the seller is, may or may not participate in helping out with that 3%.
No, it's banned, period. Sellers may not compensate buyer agents.
But I mean,
period.
in today's world, they can do that.
Well, in today's world, they can do that. Yeah.
But
no,
I'm saying
in today's world, there's no sub-agency.
Don't we have that kind of choice now?
We don't.
Well, we do. I mean, I just described it.
How?
Well, again, you can either come with me and pay nothing, or you can choose to hire your own agent. You're going to have to pay that agent 3%, which my seller may or may not pay for or help pay for.
Wait, if you come with me, then you don't pay, like we don't pay? What are you talking about?
No,
you don't pay either way.
Right. So if the rep agreement that they sign with their own buyer says I got to pay 3%, right?
But
where's that money coming from?
Hold on a second. We just went. Somebody went to homes.com or Zillow, homes.com because you're listing your lead.
Right.
I'm not working with an agent. That agent's going to go sign this buyer agency agreement. By the way, my seller's going to take care of it. Like, okay, how are you doing it? You're just going to be an unrepresented buyer?
Correct.
Come on, dude.
Yeah. So that choice, you're saying that's a bullshit choice.
It's not because no one does that. Listing agent go, oh, great. You know what? I have someone on my team who'll take good care of you.
Right.
Because the buyer's like...
Maybe it's not the best example, but okay.
So in other words, look, it's real simple. The seller commission is now 2.5%.
Right.
Period. End of story. Okay. No, I'm sorry. It's not. The seller commission is 5%. Right. 2.5% compensation to sub-agents.
Okay.
Right. If the buyer is represented by the own agent, commission is 2.5%. there's nothing to share.
Right.
And you, the seller, are not allowed by law to compensate the agent of a fiduciary of another, of your counterparty. That's it. If I'm the seller, I'm like, okay.
Well, we've changed a little bit, but yeah.
No, if I'm the seller, I'm like, God, I really hope the buyer is represented. Right?
Right.
And so what might I do? I say, you know what? If you're represented, I'm going to cut the price by 2.5%. Right? Because for me, it's the same thing. I net the same. Whether I pay 5% to my agent to share with the sub-agent, or I pay 2.5% and then cut the cost by 2.5%, my net's the same.
But for the buyer, he gets, he pays less, but gets somebody that's going to represent him more.
That's right. So to the buyer,
that's more on like people. As you said, if you gave them a choice, you can pay less and get represented directly,
right?
Or pay more and not be. Well,
but what I'm saying, it ends up being the same thing. It's just, are you paying less for the house, right? And then paying your agent, or are you paying more for the house and then not paying for your agent?
Yeah, well, maybe people in the comments can give us
but what I mean is that's how it ended up working out, right? But here's what it does, and I'm saying this is why we should be pursuing, why we need to go back to this, because it eliminates so many of the effing problems we have, right? Now the MLS can do compensation again. We can do cooperation and compensation again, because cooperation means sub-agency. Compensation means you're a sub-agent, so of course you're going to get paid by the guy you're working for, which is the seller.
Yeah, I see that. I think though, just even our conversation now, you're going to find little things as we go through, like, oh, wait a second, I didn't think of this and I didn't think of that. But
probably, yeah. And obviously, neither of us are in charge of any of this. So, this is us yammering, and maybe people who are in charge of things like this could actually really think about it, right? Yeah. So, I don't know. Back to the future, right? Back to the future. Yeah. And here's the thing. Go back to the future, and then the association, the MLS, should divorce. Okay? Not because of liability, but because it's actually good for them both.
Yeah.
Right? And I've been making that argument for almost 10 years now.
Yeah.
2016 to now. Like, I've been saying, hey, you need to divorce, like, for your own selves,
Yeah.
Like, realtor associations, Anne-Marie does make the point. If the MLS went away, why would the realtor association fold? Right? Well, the answer is because the realtor association is offering nothing of value.
Yeah, they have to increase their value proposition.
So you have to come up with some sort of value proposition. And here's the thing. They can, if they are forced to. So let's make that happen. I mean, so I'm in support of Anne-Marie's push. Thank you for coming on board the divorce bandwagon. Anyway, all right. I think our time is up. Thanks, everyone, for yammering, listening to the show. This would be one where we could really use your thoughts. So if you have any thoughts, feedback, put it in the comments on YouTube anyway. If you're listening to us on audio only, please go to YouTube. We're on Industry Relations Podcast, and give us your comments there. Tell us why Rob is wrong, I guess, or why you agree with me. Right? That might be the other possibility.
Yeah.
So,
thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.